Hello, welcome to this course. This is the first hour of a Pro Tools course which is available on Skillshare and Udemy. So if you like the course, head over to Udemy or Skillshare and check them out. Okay, in this video we are going to create some folders and we are going to organise the assets which we have downloaded. So let's get started. I'm on a Mac and I'm going to keep my project on my desktop. So what we need to do is create a new folder. I'm going to call this the race car project. I recommend you do the same thing, that way we're both moving in tandem together. So this is our project folder. And within this we need to create some other folders. So I'm going to open up this folder. The first folder I'm going to create is called Picture. And this is where we're going to keep the video file that we'll be working to on this project. The next folder we need to create is called Music, and this is where we'll keep the music file. We then need one called SFX for sound effects. We then need one called Sound Edit, which will be for our sound editing session. We then need one called Sound Mix, which will be for our sound mix session. And the last folder we're going to need is called Deliverables. And this is where we're going to keep the sound file that we create at the end of our sound mix. Before we begin working in Pro Tools, we need to organise the files that we downloaded for this course. I'm going to open up another window so I can see my downloads. And here we have our folder, the race car downloads. I'm now going to copy the files I've downloaded. If you don't have a lot of space in your computer or your drive, then feel free just to move them. But I think it can be handy to keep a copy of what you originally downloaded so you can always reference it later on if you need to. In my race car project folder, I'm going to open the picture folder. I'm then going to open up this drop-down menu here, my downloads. And I'm going to click on this and copy the picture to the picture folder. I'll then close that. I'll then copy the music to the music folder. There it is. And then we need to copy these two sound effect folders here. We have Atmos sound effects and hard sound effects. I'm going to click on both, copy them, and paste them both within the SFX folder. Okay, so I'm going to open up these folders so we can look at what we have. We have our video, we have our music track, and we have our sound effects folders here. Okay, now we've got that done, we can move on to the next video. In this video, what we're going to do is create a Pro Tools session. So the first thing we need to do is launch Pro Tools. I have mine in my dock here, so I'm going to double click on the icon. This may take a moment depending on how many plugins Pro Tools is trying to load, but just give it a few seconds and eventually it'll do its thing and Pro Tools will open. The first thing you'll see is what is called the dashboard, and this gives you options for creating or opening a Pro Tools session. The two options we're going to focus on are New, for creating a new session, and beneath that is Recent, for opening recent sessions which you've already created and worked on. So click on New to make sure it's this light grey colour. Now, we want to get moving on our short film and start editing, so I'm not going to go into too much detail with these settings now, but if you follow along and replicate what I'm doing, everything will start to become clearer the further we move through these lessons. The first thing we need to do is name our session. We're going to call this the Race Car Sound Edit. So click on this to make sure it's highlighted blue. The Race Car sound edit. And once you've typed the name of the session, let's look more at this window here. The first drop-down menu here is asking us what file type we'd like to use. Now we want to choose WAV. The next one along is sample rate. Now the industry standard is 48 kilohertz, so we want to make sure 48 is chosen. 44.1 is common for music production, but 48 is when you're working in post-production on film or television. Next we have bit depth, and again industry standard is 24-bit, so we want to choose 24-bit. The next one is I/O settings, and we're going to be mixing in stereo, so we need stereo mix. Beneath we have a checkbox that says interleaved. Check this so you get a green check mark, and later on we're going to cover what this means, but check it so it has a green check in the box. Then we have here prompt for location. If your button isn't green, click it so it turns green. And what this means is when we hit create to create our session, Pro Tools will ask you where you want your session to be saved. So we want to make sure prompt for location has the green check mark. Then we need to hit create. So let's do that. This window has opened asking us where we want to save our project. So if we go to our desktop and go to the race car project, which is on our desktop, we then want to go to our sound edit folder, and we want to save our Pro Tools session within the sound edit folder. So make sure you've clicked on sound edit, then hit save. We now have a Pro Tools session that's opened, and as you can see it is a blank Pro Tools session, no tracks, no video, nothing. What I'm going to do is just hit this crosshair just to get rid of it for now. And what I'm going to do is open up my race car project folder. So if I double click on this and open it, I'm then going to open the sound edit folder. And then I want to open the race car sound edit folder. Let's have a look at what we've got in the folder. We have audio files, bounced files, clip groups, session file backups, and video files. We have these folders which have been created. Then we also have one called the Race Car Sound Edit PTX. This is our session file, and if we double click on this, it opens our session. Now, what I'm going to do is quit Pro Tools. I will save the Race Car Sound Edit. And then I'm going to look in our Race Car Sound Edit folder, and what you'll see is those folders have gone. And that's because we didn't do anything to these folders. We didn't back up our session, we didn't import any audio files, so Pro Tools just got rid of them. Now, if you're in the early stages of using Pro Tools and you see folders disappear when you close your session, that's just to be expected. Once we start editing sound, most of those folders will stay in the Race Car Sound Edit folder because we'll be using them. So in the next lesson, we're going to be importing video into our session, so I will see you there. In this video, we are going to import our picture into Pro Tools. So let's open Pro Tools. I'm going to go to my dock and double click on Pro Tools. And again, it may be slow to open, it depends how many plugins you have. My Pro Tools has a few plugins, such as RX and some Waves plugins. Okay, so you can see the dashboard has opened again. So last time we were in New when we created our session. Well, let's go to Recent. And you can see there's a load of stuff here I'm going to blur out because it's projects I'm working on for other people. But the Race Car Sound Edit, that's what we were working on. So let's make sure that is highlighted blue and you can click Open. And here we have our blank session. let's import some video. There's a few things we need to check before we start. If we go up here and we click on Setup, and then we go to Playback Engine, you need to make sure that the Enable Video Engine is checked here with this green check mark. And if that is checked, press OK. Then go back up to the Setup menu again and move down to Session here and click on Session. This is our session setup window, and we're going to do a few things in this window. The first thing we need to do is set the session start time. And that is what it says, it's the start of our session. You need to make sure that your session start time is 09590000. Yours may just say 0000 all the way. So what you do is you double click on it so it all turns green. And then you just type in 095900. Oh, I made a mistake there. 09590000 and press return. And there you go. That should be your session start time. We also need to make sure our timecode rate is at 25 frames a second because our video is at 25 frames a second. Come down here to timecode rate. This here needs to be 25 frames a second. If I click on the menu, you can see this is where all the frame rates are, but we want 25, so make sure that is selected there. Okay, let's close this window and now let's import the video. So to import video into Pro Tools, we need to go to the File menu here, click on File, and move down to Import. And if you hold your cursor over Import, you'll see this menu appears here, where we can import a lot of different things, but we want to import video. So click on Video. We now have our Select a Video file to import window open, and we need to navigate our way to our race car project folder. So mine's on my desktop. So if I click on Desktop, click on this. I then need to go to Picture, click on that. And then I need to click on the Race Car Short Film for Pro Tools file. And then press Open. So here we have a Video Import Options window open. Go to this drop-down menu here, and we want to make sure what we have selected is Spot. Make sure you click on that. And what Spot means is we're going to tell Pro Tools where to put the video. So Session Start would put the video at the start. Selection would put the video at a place you had already selected in your timeline. We want Spot, so make sure that's checked. Now this video doesn't come with any audio, but it does have a pip on it so you can check timecode. So make sure that Import Audio from File is also checked. If that doesn't have the green check mark, click on it to get the green check mark and press OK. We now have another window appear, which is our Spot dialog box. Now this timecode here is wrong. We set our session start to this timecode, but we want to put this picture at a different timecode. The picture that's been created by the edit room and sent to us is 09594900. So that's what we want to type in here. So make sure, if it's not all selected, you double click and select it all. And then you need to type in 09594900. This is the time code where we want our picture to start. So press OK. We have another window appear, and this is asking us where we want to save the audio file that comes with the video. So the video we're importing into Pro Tools is referencing the video from our desktop. It's not duplicating it or copying it, it's referencing the video from our desktop. But it's going to duplicate the audio from the video, and it's going to put it in our audio files folder, and it does this by default. So let's press Open. Okay, And here we have our picture in our session. And you can see here, not only has Pro Tools put the video in our session, it's created 2 tracks. So the top track is a video track, which has the picture on it. And then underneath, we have a stereo track, which has the audio from the video on it. And in this case, like I mentioned, it's just the pip, which we can use for syncing if we need to. Now, if you're looking at your session and it looks a bit like this, and you're thinking, I've just imported my picture, but I can't see it, you can try clicking near the front of the session, or you could press return, which sends you to the start of the session. You can then press T, and it will zoom you in horizontally, and you should see your picture. Now, if you want to zoom out, you need to press the R key, and that will zoom you out, and everything will get smaller. So the R key, there you go. So T gets bigger and R gets smaller. And remember, where you click your cursor will dictate where you zoom in and where you zoom out. So there's a few things we need to check on our video track. Let's check we have the correct frame rate, which is very important. If we go over to the left-hand side of our track and we just look here, you'll see it says 25 FPS frames per second. If this is red, you need to go back and double check that you have 25 frames per second selected in your session, which we covered earlier. You'll have to go back and check that. There's also this blue button here. Now, if you click on it, let me show you what happens. The video, so here's our video of the boy. If you click on this blue button, the video has gone offline, so the video just isn't working. So if ever you see that your video seems to not be working, one thing you could do when you're troubleshooting is just check this button hasn't been, for some reason, turned off. Make sure it's always blue. So when you've imported your video, you might find that it's huge like this. And it's a bit impractical. Maybe you're working on a laptop and you just can't see what's going on. What you can do is you can click down in the corners and resize to something more manageable. Also, if you need your picture to be somewhere else on your screen, you can click the top and just move it around like this. I'm going to keep mine in the top right-hand corner, about there, because I need access to kind of these tools over here. You can also resize it by right-clicking on it, and there's some options which will appear. Here we go. So you can have it full screen, which is huge. Let me right-click again. You can have it actual size. There we go. You can have it half size, or you can have it quarter size. So I kind of like half size about there. And then I'm going to grab the corner and just shrink it a little bit. That's the size of picture I like. If you need to shut the window down for any reason, maybe you want to check your emails or it's just getting in the way, you can press this red circle, which is just here, the X, and your video will disappear. But then obviously you're going to want your video back at some point. If you go to the menu up here that says Window, click on it, you can scroll down right here where it says Video, click on Video, and it will reappear. If I click on Video again and scroll down, you can see there is a shortcut, which is Command 9, but that only works if you're using a numeric keyboard, which I'm not. So now we have a video in our session. What we now need are some tracks we can put some audio clips on. And that's what we'll be doing in our next video. Welcome to a new video. And in this video, we're going to be creating some tracks. To create a new track in Pro Tools, go up to this menu and click on Track. From the drop-down menu, click on New, and you'll see this window appears here. I'm going to cancel this, as there is a keyboard shortcut we can use to access that window. The shortcut is Command-Shift-N, and it's Control-Shift-N on Windows. So if I press Command-Shift-N, I get the New Tracks window appear. And this is where we can create some tracks. So we need to tell Pro Tools the type of tracks we'd like to create. The first item here allows us to choose how many tracks we want to create. The next one along lets us choose what kind of tracks we want to create. Do we want a mono, a stereo? There's lots of others you can choose. The next one along, we can choose what we want the track to do. Do we want an audio track, an aux track? And again, there's a few to choose from. Samples we won't be changing in these lessons, so we can just leave samples alone. And we can name our tracks as well in this box here. So we want 2 mono audio tracks, and we're going to call these Mono Atmos. We can add multiple types of tracks to our session as well. And to do this, we need to use this plus button here. So if we hit the plus button, we also need to create 4 stereo audio tracks, and we're going to call these Stereo Atmos. We also need an aux input track for all of these to play through. An aux input track is a control track for any audio routing tasks, and we'll go through this more later. This track can be mono or stereo, so make sure you choose the correct one. So let's hit the plus button, and we need 1 stereo aux input track, and we'll call this aux Atmos. Now press Create. You can now see our tracks have appeared in our session. You can also see all of our tracks are highlighted. All the names of the tracks are white. Now this makes it difficult if you want to select an individual track or move our tracks around. What you need to do is press Option and click on a track, and it will deselect all of our tracks. Now I'm going to move my aux Atmos to the top. That's where I prefer to keep mine, so I'm going to put mine there. Before we put some audio clips into our session, we need to send our tracks to the aux input track via the outputs. This means any sound we place on our audio tracks will be played through the Atmos aux. So if we click on our first audio track, which is here, we go down to the bottom, we press Shift, and we click on the last track. We've now highlighted our atmosphere tracks, and we want to send these to our aux track. So if we want to send just the selected tracks, what we need to do is press Option Shift on a Mac keyboard. It's Alt Shift on Windows. Then you need to click on the function that you want to change, and we want to change our outputs. So if I press Option Shift, and then on any output, it doesn't matter which one, I need to click on the output there. Then from this menu, I need to go down to Track, and we want to choose the aux Atmos track. So if I click on that, it has changed all my Atmos tracks, so they're all routed out through the aux Atmos track. So when we start to put sound on these tracks, it'll become clear what's going on. Next, we need to solo safe our aux track. If we come up here, you can see mine is greyed out, but sometimes, if I press Command and click, they're not greyed out. So what you need to do is press Command and click on your solo button on the aux track so it's greyed out. This prevents the track from being muted when you solo other tracks. It can be really handy to colour coordinate our tracks, as it can help us understand what parts of our session are doing what. So how do we do this? If we go over to one of our tracks, let's choose the Atmos track, and we double click on this section here, it will bring up our colour palette window. And you can see here, as we had highlighted our aux atmosphere track, it shows you in the colour palette window what colour your track is. So let's just go into a few things in this window so we can understand what it can do for us. This drop-down menu here, UI theme, you can choose what theme you want your Pro Tools to be. So mine at the moment is dark, but you could choose classic, which is this colour. I think this is too bright for me. I like dark, so I'm going to click on that. In this general drop-down menu here, I'm going to open it up. You can do things like you can change the colour of your text. So you can have it blue if you wanted, orange. Let me reset that. You can also adjust the brightness of your text. And you can adjust the background. I'll reset that. So if I close general, I'll go into tracks. And you'll see here in tracks, you can do things like mess with the brightness of the header. Like that. You can do the timeline brightness. So you can kind of mess around and find some settings which you like. I'm going to reset that. All we're going to do in this window though is colour our tracks. We're not going to mess around with any of these settings. So make sure this drop down menu here has tracks selected. And what we're going to do is colour these tracks. So the aux Atmos, I'm going to make a blue colour. I'm going to pick that blue there. And we're going to be creating other aux tracks for our session, and they're all going to be the same colour. Next up, let's click on Mono Atmos 1, press Shift, click on Mono Atmos 2. And I'm going to make my Atmos tracks, maybe, I'm going to choose that green. And the stereo Atmos tracks, so if I click on the first one, go down to the bottom, press Shift and click, I'm going to make these a bit of a darker green colour. So all my atmospheres are going to be green, my aux is going to be blue. Okay, so I'm going to shut this window. There is a way of getting to that window though, without double clicking on your track, and you just go to Window. If you go down, Colour Palette is there. Okay. We now have added colour to all our tracks. Welcome to another video, and this is where we start the process of editing sound for our short film. So in this lesson, the tools we're going to use are the Selector tool, which is this button here that's highlighted blue. We're going to be using clip groups, and we're going to be using the grid mode. Okay, so let's create a new track. Now the shortcut for this, if you remember, is Shift Command N, and we just need one mono audio track, and we're going to call this track Atmos Locations. Hit return or press create, and let's drag this above the aux Atmos track. There we go. So in order to create our clip groups, the first thing we're going to go over is grid mode. So let me show you what that is. We use grid mode to align our clips within a grid. If you go up to the left-hand corner here, you can choose grid mode by selecting this blue button here. You may have slip mode on, or you could have spot on, but make sure grid mode is selected. If this button here is pink, just click on this arrow here and you can change it to blue. We need grid mode and this needs to be blue. And if you look here, we have a grid in our session, but we need to make sure the grid is the right size for what we're doing. Now if you can't see the grid, we move this picture. If you can't see the grid, this button here might not be selected. With this button off, the grid isn't in the session. It's still there. You can still use the grid, it's just invisible, you can't see it. So if you click that button, the grid appears. What you'll now need to do, again I'm going to move my picture down, you need to go to this drop down menu here, which is next to the grid button, and you need to choose one frame. So what we now have is a grid in our session made up of frames, and this is going to help us create precise clip groups. The other tool we're going to use is the selector tool, which is this button here, which is highlighted blue. Now with the selector tool on, we can select horizontally and vertically, making selections like this in a single movement. There we go. So you can see if I click and drag, it's highlighting the area we have selected. Let's take a moment to look at our cursor and edit cursor. So pop up to the option menu up the top, scroll down to edit window scrolling, and we need continuous. And you'll see this has given us a second cursor. So now in our session we have two different cursors. We have a playback cursor and an edit cursor. The playback cursor is this solid non-blinking line which is in the centre of our session, and it tells us where our current playback point is. The playback cursor's timecode is the main timecode, which is here. The edit cursor is the flashing line that appears when you have the selector tool on and you click on a track. We need to have these two cursors linked, and you can do this by going to Option and going down to Link Timeline and Edit Selection. You need to make sure there's a tick here. If I uncheck that, you can also do it by going to this box here, and you'll see here it says Link Timeline Edit Selection. If you click on that so it turns blue, our playback cursor and edit cursor are now linked, which is going to help us while we're editing. Let's create some clip groups. So what I'm going to do is find the first frame of the short film. I'm going to have to shrink my video a bit more. Okay, where is it? So the first frame is here. Click on the first frame and then drag, and you'll see I'm highlighting a region here. So if I let go, it leaves a white box around the region we've just highlighted. But let's say you let go too soon, but you need to highlight more of the region. What you do is you just press Shift and click, and then it preserves the white box and it doesn't get rid of it. You can keep dragging out the area that you've selected. Let's click on the first frame, which is there, and drag out to the next shot, which is this interior garage shot. And I'm going to let go of the mouse. Now we're going to create a clip group. So let's press Command Option G, and in Windows that's Control Alt G. And we have just created a clip group. Now if I move my video over a little bit, and we look at our clip list, which is here, you'll see a clip has been created. This is going to come in handy later because when you click on different clips in your clip list, it highlights the clip in your track list. So if you need to find a clip, it's a really handy way of navigating yourself around. Let's rename this clip. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go down to rename, and I'm going to call this Exterior, EXT, Street. You can hit return or press OK, and we've just renamed our clip. So we've created our first clip group. Let's click on the first frame of the next shot, and this is going to be where we start our next clip. So I'm going to press T to zoom in a bit. So if I click here and drag through the timeline, that's the start of our next shot. So again, if I press on a Mac Command Option G, I've created a clip group. So I'm going to right click, go to rename, and I'll call this Interior, INT, Garage. And you can press OK or press return. And let's do this for the next location. If I click at the start of the shot, and then scroll through to this next shot here of this car. There we go. I press Option Command G, then I right click to rename it. Now what I'm going to call this is Exterior Street, because when we track lay, this atmosphere is going to be the same atmosphere as the one we're going to be editing for the first shot. So let's call this Exterior Street. Press OK or hit return. Let's click on this shot. Here, Command Option G, right click, rename, and let's call this Exterior. And as he's driving by fields, let's call it Fields. So this is going to be a different atmosphere to the prior shot because it's a different location. Press OK. I've just noticed this one here, I left the .grp at the end. So if I double click, I want to change that because I want it to be the same. Okay, so let's click on the first frame of the next shot. Let's scroll all the way through to here. Press Command Option G, right click, rename. Let's call this Exterior Street. Click on the first frame of the next shot. And we can now go all the way to the end of the short film, because all of this is going to be the same atmosphere. So I'm going to press Option Command G. I'm going to right click, go to rename, and I'm going to call this Exterior Racetrack. Now you can press OK or hit return. And if I press R to zoom out, we have now created clip groups for all of our atmospheres. And in the next video, what we're going to do is use these clip groups to edit audio files for our short film and create the atmospheres. We're now going to put audio files into our session, and we're going to create atmospheres for each clip group which we created. So let's import some audio files. If you go up here to File, you click on File, then you scroll down to Import. We need to import audio, which is here. So click on Audio. Then we need to navigate our way to the sound files that we downloaded and copied into our project folder. So mine is on my desktop. It's in the race car project. It's in sound, no it's not. It's in SFX. And here we go, Atmosphere Sound Effects. Double click on that. Click on Name. And the files we want to import are RCD Mono Atmos 1. And then we need RCD Stereo Atmos 1 and RCD Stereo Atmos 2. If you want to import multiple audio files, you can get a little bit stuck. Like if I want to import RCD Stereo Atmos 1, it's importing all the ones above. So what you do is Shift Command and click. So we want RCD Mono Atmos 1, Shift Command click on RCD Stereo Atmos 1, and then Shift Command click on RCD Stereo Atmos 2. They're the ones we want. Now they've appeared here in clips in current file, and what we need to do is copy them over to clips to import here. Then all that's left to do is click Open. Another window has opened and it's asking us where we would like to put our audio files. Now remember, we are copying our audio files, and by default it'll send us to our audio files folder. So press Open. You'll see another window has opened and it's called Import Options. You can, if you want, import them onto new tracks here, or we can import them into our clip list. We've created our tracks, so we don't want to import them onto a new track. What we want to do is select clip list, which is here. So if you click that and select clip list, then you need to press OK. If we go over to our clip list here, we'll see that what we have just imported is now in our clip list, and they're highlighted blue. So we've got a mono track at the top, then we have these two stereo tracks beneath. And if you look here, there's an arrow. If you click on the arrow, it will show you that you have two files. You have a left and a right, which is what a stereo file is made of. But obviously the mono track doesn't have that because it's one audio file. So let's drag the mono audio file we've imported into our session. I don't want these highlighted blue though, because they'll import all the tracks. I just want to import one for now. So if I click anywhere in the clip list, it deselects them. Then I want to click the mono file and drag it into our session. And what you want to do is place it around 10.00, 0404. Place it around there. Now what we need to do is grab the first stereo file, which is here. Let's drag that into our session as well. You can see here, if you drag a stereo file near mono tracks, it wants to split into two. Whereas if we go down to the stereo tracks, it's only one clip. So let's drag that over. And again, let's place it around 10.00, 0404. And then let's grab the last stereo file and drag that down as well. Now you'll see that these clips are all different lengths. Well, that's because we're going to start editing them to the picture. So I'm going to click on the first clip group. I press T to zoom in. So I'm going to double click on the first clip group so it's highlighted. Then I'm going to use the semicolon key and go down to the first audio clip. Then what I'm going to do is press B. I'm going to press the key B. Then I'm going to press T to zoom in a bit. And what you'll see here is it's created two separation points or edits. One to the left and then one to the right. And that's because it has created the edit points at the ends of the selection which we highlighted. So if I double click on this, if you need to go up, you press the key which is above the semicolon, which is the P. So semicolon goes down and the P goes up. And now what you'll see in the clip list is that we've created some clips. And they have the same name. I'll just open this a bit more. They have the same name, but a different edit number after their name. You'll also notice some of them are slightly brighter than others. Well, these bright ones are the original audio clips which were imported. And these ones which aren't so bright are the clips which have been created from the original audio clips. So let me show you, for example, if I grab this mono Atmos clip here and drag it down, press R to zoom out, I've just dragged down the original audio clip. So if I drag that in, for example, you'll see it's identical to the one above. Now I'm going to press undo, which is Command Z. Whereas if I click on this clip here and drag it onto the timeline, you'll see it's the same as this clip here. These two clips are the same. Now if I press undo. Now what I need to do is to delete this clip on the left hand side. We don't want this clip. So I've double clicked on it and I'm just going to press delete. Let's go to the next exterior street clip group, which is this one here. Double click on the clip, press the semicolon key to go down, and then press B to separate. Now what we want to do is remove this clip here, so let's double click on this clip and press delete. Then let's move over to the next exterior street. double click on it, press the semicolon key to go down, and press B to separate. And then we want to delete this audio clip here by double clicking and pressing delete. This audio clip here, so double click and press delete. Now we need to do the same thing for these two stereo ones. So if I double click on this clip group, press the semicolon key to go down, I then press B to create some separation points, delete that, double click on this clip group, press the semicolon key to go down, press B to create more separation points, double click on this group, press delete. Now what you'll see here is that my audio file runs out. I don't have enough to go to the end of that shot. So what we can do if we need to move audio files is go up to this button here, which is the grabber tool. Let's click on the grabber tool. Then when we move our cursor down, you'll see it's now turned into a hand. And what we can do is click on the clip and you can drag it in your timeline. So let's drag it about there. I'm now going to go back up and click on the selector tool. Double click on this clip group here. Press the semicolon key to go down. Press B to separate. Then double click on this clip, delete it. Double click on this clip and delete it. Then I need to do this audio clip here. So if I double click, so what I could do is double click even on this clip. Just press the semicolon key to go down, press B to separate. I'm going to press T to zoom in, delete that. Double click on the clip, press the semicolon key to go down, press the B to separate and delete that. Double click on this clip, press the semicolon key to go down, press B to separate, and then I'm going to delete the clips either side. The next Atmos I'm going to track lay is Interior Garage, which is this one here. So let's import some more audio files. Go up to File, click on that, go down to Import, and then go across to this menu, go down to Audio, double click, and the audio files we want for Interior Garage are RCD Mono Atmos 2 and RCD Stereo Atmos 3. Here they are in clips in current file. We need to copy them. So they're in clips to import and then press open. We want them in our audio files folder, so press open. We want them in our clip list, not on new tracks, so make sure clip list is selected. Press OK. And here you can see our clips are now highlighted blue. Now if they're both highlighted, what you can do is click on one and you'll actually drag them both in. So let's do that, just drag them both in, dump them there. So I'm going to click off them to unhighlight them. Go up to the grabber tool, click on the grabber tool, come down, then I can click on the first mono and I can drag that to about there. 10.00.04.19. Then I'm going to grab this stereo track and place it beneath at the same point, 10.00.19. Then I'm going to go back up to here and choose the selector tool. Then I'm going to double click the clip group for Interior Garage. I'm going to press T to zoom in a bit. Move that over. I'm going to press semicolon to go down and I'm going to press B. I'm going to delete, I'm going to double click and delete the clips either side. Double click on the clip group again, semicolon key to go down, press B and then delete the audio clips either side. So next we're going to need some atmospheres for this shot here with the car on the road. So let's go up to File, go down to import, and we need to import audio. And the audio we want to import is RCD Mono Atmos 3, and then go down to RCD Stereo Atmos 4. Here they are, the audio files we've selected. Let's copy them into Clips to Import and press Open. We want them in our audio files folder, so open that. We want them in our clip group, so press OK. And here they are in our clip group. So again, let's drag them both down to here. Go up to the grabber tool, click on that. Come back down. We need to deselect them. Click on the mono file. Drag that to about 10.00.15.11. Click on the stereo file, drag that beneath to about 10.00.15.11. And then what we need to do, if I move my picture, is go up and choose the selector tool so we don't have the grabber tool anymore. Double click on this exterior fields clip group, press the semicolon key to go down, press B, then we need to double click on the clip group and delete it either side. I'm going to double click on this clip group, press the semicolon key to go down, press B, then I'm going to delete the clips either side. So then we have this last atmosphere to track lay. So let's go up to File, go down to Import, we want to import audio, RCD Mono Atmos 4, and we want RCD Stereo Atmos 5 and 6. Press Copy and Open. Yes, we want them in our audio files folder. We want them in the clip list, so press OK, and here they are. So let's drag them into our session. And press R to zoom out. So I'm going to click on the grabber tool, and I'm just going to place them at 10.00.32.12. Then I'm going to go back to choose the selector tool. I'm going to come to this race car track clip group, double click on it. I'm going to semicolon down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press B to create those separation points. But then I'll just press the semicolon key to go down to the next clip I want to edit. Press B to separate. Semicolon key to go down again, B to separate. And then I'm just going to delete. I'm going to double click and delete all these clips in one go. There we go. So what we've done here is we have put audio into our session. But what we now need to do is put fades at the start and the end of these audio clips. And fades are great because they give a nice transition between edits. So let's do that now. So if I click at the start of our track lay and I press T to zoom in order to put fades on these clips, what I need to do is turn on a thing called the Smart tool. So if you come up to here where we've just used the selector and the grabber tool, if we click on this bar above, if you look, there's a bar here. If we click on that, we've now selected our Smart tool. And what our Smart tool means is when we hover over a clip, we have access to our selector tool. We also, if we move the cursor down, have our grabber tool. If we go to the edge of a clip, we have access to something called a trim tool. And we also put fades on a clip. If we go to the top of a clip, we can put a fade on a clip. So what we're now going to do is go through all our clips and put fades on them. And all our fades are going to be 2 frames long, but we're not going to move the fades into the shot like this. We want them all to start in the prior shot, and at the end of the clip we want them to end in the next shot. So I'll show you now. Hover our cursor here to get the fade, click, and let's drag the fade 2 frames. Come down to the clip below, click. Now I'm dragging them 2 fades because that's my personal preference. I think that sounds good. But you could do 1 frame if you wanted. So let's click here at the end of it and drag the fade out 2 frames. So hover the cursor, get this box here. Let's move over. So we're almost done putting the fades on. Okay, I'm now going to press R to zoom out. So there we go. We have now track laid all our atmospheres for this short film. Now what we need to do is listen to what we have track laid. So how do we do that? How can we hear what we have track laid? If you come over to the tracks on the left hand side, there's a button here with an S on it. And this is a solo button. Now if no solo buttons are selected, you can click in your timeline, press the space bar, which is play. You will hear what you have track laid. But suppose, for example, you just want to listen to 1 track. Well, what you do is you click the solo button, you then press play, and you will only hear the clips on that track. But let's say, for example, you want to play just the mono atmospheres and not the stereo atmospheres. Well, what you can do is, let's click on Mono Atmos 1. You can press Shift and the colon key to go down, and we've just selected our mono atmospheres. Then what you do is you press Shift and S, and that has selected the solos on just these 2 tracks here. So if we press play, that was just playing the clips on these 2 tracks. So if you want to hear what's on 1 track, you can either move your mouse and click on it, or you can press Shift S, press the space bar, or if you want multiple tracks, press Shift and the colon key. Now, if I was to press Shift S to select these tracks I've selected, if I've already had a solo selected, that solo turns off. Did you see that? So Shift S to deselect the solos, that solo's turned back on. So if you're going to use the shortcut Shift S, you need to make sure all your solos are off before you use that shortcut. Okay, so I'm going to turn off all the solos and I'm just going to press play, and what we're going to do is listen to what we have just track laid. Okay, so here we go. Great, our atmospheres are done. Let's move on to the next video.